Hey guys, and welcome to Beating the Press podcast, your weekly podcast where we talk all things football. If that's your type of thing, click the like, subscribe, and comment, and do all that stuff down below. Today, we are going to be focusing on the Women's Euros. Now, by all accounts, it's been a record-breaking tournament for the women's game. And of course, it's been held in England. Now, we like to cover all forms of football. We like to cover all kinds of non-league, professional. I've had a few guests on. And today, I think it's only right that we give the coverage to the ladies of the sport. And by God, they've put on a feast for us so far. Ty, my wonderful co-host, if you didn't know already, he has been to a couple of games so far this tournament, and he's also planning on going to, I believe, a semi-final. So he's going to talk us through his experiences so far. We're just going to go through the semi-finals that are up and coming. The England's team, the Lionesses, are doing absolutely amazing at the moment. So we're just going to talk through the possibilities of them getting into the final and hopefully going one step further and topping the men. So over to you, Ty. How are you doing anyway?
Yeah, I'm all right. We only seem to speak whenever we're doing this podcast. So I might WhatsApp you, but I don't really know what's going on in his life until I catch up. We had a quick 5-minute catch up before we started the podcast. But no, yeah, just to correct you on one thing, it's not a couple of games. I've just been at one game, and that was a quarter final. And I'm going to the England game, England semi-final, which we're recording this on Monday, and obviously that's tomorrow. It's Tuesday. It was brilliant. So I booked both the tickets for the quarter final and the semi-final. Two main reasons: I could take wife Becky and the two girls with me, Jasmine and Lilo, 9 and 5, and I wanted somewhere close rather than in Sheffield, with about as close as you can get.
Yeah.
And I wanted a knockout games just on the off chance that England managed to get through. And semi-finals have worked out perfect because England won the top of the group, won the quarterfinals, and now they're there. But our quarterfinal went to was France against Holland. So the first question in the Akram household on Friday night was, which team are we going to support? And we were like, well, Holland are going to party. They're the team that parties. We'll go with Holland. So we went there, and if anyone follows me on Twitter, it would, I stuck a few videos up there, and they followed the fan walk from the city centre to the stadium. Yeah, it was just absolutely brilliant. The whole, how inclusive it was, how it got football tries to be inclusive, but we've both been to men's games where it just isn't. It's got an edge to it. There's an undercurrent to it. I went to the World Cup, the European Championship final last year. It had a horrible edge to it. Whereas this game, it was brilliant. The France-Holland, you know what I mean? Both fans were mingling, great singing, dancing, partying, everything that you want from a game was brilliant. The girls absolutely loved it as well. Layla 5, it's the first time she'd ever been to a game. She was just absolutely taken, you know what I mean? But she just took it all in. But she was asking questions that me and you would think are quite stupid, but they're not. When someone asks you a question that you've not really heard, because we've watched football all our lives, and I'll tell you some of the things that she asked when we sat down. She said, "Daddy, what are those things?" So they had cones before they were warming up. So I'd explain to her what cones are. She goes, "What are they there for?" She goes, "Oh, they're just to run in a straight line." And you think, well, because they do warm up, I'm like, actually, it's quite stupid. You need cones to run in a straight line. And then she said, no, what are those lines? The white lines on the outside. So try to explain that to a 5-year-old. What are they? It's like, well, if it goes out, the ball's out of play. Then you've got to explain what the ball going out of play means. And then he explained how that comes back into play and why are they there? Do you know? So it was all those questions, and I had to really dumb it down, but it were questions. She was just full of questions, and I loved it. And I was just telling, like I was saying, and every time, because we were sort of sat behind the goal near the corner, so every time the ball came into that corner, she was like, oh, player's really close, or she was taking a corner. So she absolutely loved it. In fact, she got to eat copious amounts of crisps, chocolates, ice cream. She was absolutely bouncing, and to be fair, she did fall asleep when we left as well. So yeah, it was absolutely brilliant.
I just wanted to say, obviously, we've done a podcast in the past where, I think you went to quite a few games at the Euros, but I say quite a few. I'm exaggerating again. You went to 2, and I remember you saying you would never take your kids there. You would never do that. I'm glad you brought up the atmosphere and that. Would you say that was the biggest difference between the men and the women's game?
Yeah, I mean, I did go. I mean, I think if you ask me the question tomorrow, after tomorrow, I think I'll be able to give a better answer. I actually think tomorrow will feel. Now, I don't mean this disrespectfully at all to him, but tomorrow I think it's got already got the feeling of a men's international, an England men's international. The whole event, the day, the atmosphere that's going to get created within there. I feel like it's going to be a real event because obviously it's a huge event. It's a semi-final, on home soil. I think if we're comparing the Italy-Spain game was friendly because you obviously went with me. I'd say it was similar to that, but not as obviously, different levels because there was like 10,000 at Rotherham and there was like 80,000, for Italy-Spain game. So I just think the atmosphere absolutely, there's a family vibe there. You don't have to worry about, your kids getting abused or someone swearing. It's just, because I mean, it was like me, Jasmine, Layla, and Becky were sat next to another woman and they were just talking. She'd gone to every game at Rotherham. And they were just chatting, and I don't think you'd get that in the men's game. There was stuff there that you're just opening it up, and it's allowing a different audience to come in and enjoy the game. And we talk about great events. When a country hosts an event or wants to host, every event you host, you want it to be great.
Yeah.
And it's like leaving that lasting legacy, leaving a real impact. And I think you've got something like this now where you've got a future generation of young girls that'll be like, well, I can be Beth Mead, I can be Lauren Kemp, do you know what I mean? I can be Georgia Stanway. Those sort of players, they can now really relate to them and sort of put, they could be their role models. Because, you listen to Serena Wiegman, the England manager, and she says, like when she was young, she never had anyone. Her role models were male footballers, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But now it's, you're giving these young girls that growing up and it gives them an opportunity to, really take it in. But I think that's all great. But I think that for me, it's the first time I watched a live women's professional game.
Yeah.
And the quality was really good. I've got to say that I actually thought it'd be a lot slower than what it was. The pace, the intensity was really good. And there were some absolute thunderous tackles flying in as well. Do you know what I mean? There was some really good stuff. I thought France's finishing was really weak. They should have really won the game comfortably. I thought the keeper for Holland did really well. But I thought the player, there was some real good technical ability. It wasn't a case of like, and I'll be honest, when I was younger and you're watching women play, they couldn't really kick the ball from one side to the other, couldn't switch it. Whereas the women can now switch the play. They'll see the play, they'll switch. I mean, it might go wrong, but they can certainly switch the play now. They've got the power in their legs and they're physically right. They're now full time, so they've got all that, training behind them for them to be able to do that. And the ability, defending was good. I was really impressed by the quality of football.
Yeah. I actually watched a good amount of that game. I've watched like more than I've ever watched any other women's tournaments, and like you said, the quality is much better. The goalkeeping has improved ridiculously. There's still obviously elements of ball at the feet, but otherwise I think it's been absolutely brilliant. I think there was a player called I think it was Perisset, I think she was called, for France.
Eve Perisset, is it?
Yeah, I think she was brilliant. She was like just pulling all the strings. There was a centre back. Sorry, I'm absolutely crucifying the French centre back as well. She was just winning everything in the air.
Is that Renard? She's that big.
I think she's the captain. Yeah.
Captain
so,
she looks like Van Dijk, doesn't she? She's like Van Dijk. Yeah. So she played really well. I was there, so she played well.
Yeah, so it's it has captured my interest more than I thought it would be, and I think that's quite naive of me because it has come a long way, the women's game. But so that takes us on to the next thing. Obviously,
just before we do move on, I've got a question to ask, and I want the honest answer here. Okay, so if you're watching a women's international game, it gets to 9 o'clock. Are you watching the rest of that game, or are you watching Love Island?
Right, that's a good question. No. I watch Love Island the next night. I'm always a night behind, so I can watch Love Island at around 7 o'clock, so it doesn't stop me watching the women's game. But if a women's England game is on and Love Island is on, I'm going to choose the women's football match. But
I've actually watched the game, so it gets to kick off 8 o'clock, gets to 9. And I'm watching the game, and I'll watch it through. Becky's like, "You watching Love Island?" I'm like, "No, I'm watching the football." So the quality's been that good that I've actually stayed in and watched the women's game, whatever game it is, and finished it till the end. Now, I think we talk about the women's game where it stands in the men's game. We've got to, there's got to be an acceptance to two different sports. That's the way you just got to look at it, because they just are, you know what I mean? But if you've got the product that the women's Euros has been this time around and the quality of it, people will flock to the stadiums and people will watch it on TV because the quality is good. That is all it is. So the biggest difference for me is it's the best quality of women's football I've seen like ever. And then going live as well, watching it, in person, that just sort of, amplified that and said, yes, absolutely, that's the way the women's game's going. So there's been huge progress made. And the fact that I'd imagine there's quite a few fans who, not turning over to Love Island and watching the little things like that are big things. Because I know when the major tournaments are on, the men's major tournaments, the European Championships, the World Cup finals, people are generally doing that. They're waiting for the game to finish and then they watch Love Island because, it sort of clashes, doesn't it? I know it's a little bit sad and everything.
Yeah.
But tonight, obviously there's no game tonight, but the games before, that's what I've done. So I think that's a big telltale sign as well to say how far the game's come. Now, if it were absolutely shit, people would have just, now we're going to go watch.
It's only going to improve as well, isn't it? So obviously the women are only going to get better as the years go on. The game's going to get higher exposure. They're going to maybe have a lot more money in again. Not that they don't have enough at the moment, but the exposure is going to give them that next level. It's only natural, the progression that's going to go on. I just see it just skyrocket.
I've got a question for you. There's obviously been games. I mean, England's first game at Old Trafford was sold out. There's been so many games that have broken records. Did you expect that?
No, none whatsoever. And like I say, I can only take it from my own personal experience in a sense where no one that I knew was interested in the women's Euros before the tournament started. But as it's gone on, more and more people are starting to talk about it. And I know a couple of people who I never thought would watch tomorrow night's match, the semi-final, and they're watching it, which is a surprise. And also, obviously, it's captured me. I think I've watched all but one of England's games, maybe not all the way through, but I've definitely caught up with the ones that I have missed. And I think it's just that bandwagon thing. People take notice when you're winning. Attendances will rise when we look at Man City, for example. I started seeing kids walking around with Man City tops on. Like I'm going to me little nephew's football matches, and they've got Man City tops on. Once you start winning, then everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon. And that's effectively what's happening with the English women's team. And obviously now they're into the fourth semi-final in a row. So, if they go on that next level and maybe perhaps win it, then, the exposure that these women are going to get, I don't think they're going to be ready for it, to be honest.
I thought, I don't know if you watched the first game. The first game, I thought they were really nervous.
Yes. And they were quite poor, weren't they?
They were poor, yeah. They were lucky with that 1-0. I think Austria deserves something from that game, but I felt it was such an important game to win. The first game, because how deflating and flat would it have been if it finished 0-0 or something?
Oh,
you know what
absolutely.
I mean? And then and then the Norway game was just, brilliant. And I felt the Spain game was, when I was watching it, I actually cheered, like proper cheered as well, like when Georgia Stanway scored that rocket.
Yeah, it was a class goal.
Oh yeah. And when I was watching that game, the sort of nervous energy you get when your team's playing, you just sort of, I'm actually drawn in here. I'm hooked in here. I need England to win. Obviously, I want England to win, but the other thing was I knew if they win, I'm watching them in the semi-final as well.
Yeah.
So that was on my mind. But I thought they can't be going out now because everything's just going to go to shit here if they don't win. So, but that goal, the Georgia Stanway's goal, talk about pressure and all that, and I mean, they scored, equalised late on as well, because I thought Spain, again, were unlucky. I thought Spain quite easy could have won that game.
Yeah. Spain were the better team for me up until I'd say around about the 70th minute.
Agreed, yeah.
And yeah, it's just like you said there, like it's hard to say things, certain things without sounding condescending. But it's new. It's new. Like women's football is in its inception pretty much right now, and it's like I said, it's only going to fly. But it was a case of the crowd seemed to really get behind it. Like the stadium was kind of like kind of pulling the ball towards the goal, and you could proper feel the atmosphere. And I was proper invested in it. And as soon as they scored, that was probably the first time where I thought, yeah, I'm engaged. So, and obviously when she went on to, then when they went on to get the winning goal, it was quality. And now I'm really looking forward to what should be a win. do you think, against the
Don't
Swedish?
know. Sweden are a good side. See, now I think you know what you'll find is all the games have been really tight.
Yeah.
So now all these teams are good. Do you know what I mean? So Sweden are obviously good. Germany good. France are good. You know, England are good as well. I mean, it's the fact that England are at home that probably just makes them slight favourites. But it's tough. I mean, you'd expect them to beat Sweden, but football, you know, it's the biggest cliche in the world. It's like football, and you know, you can't, you know, you can't call it. If we could, we'd just be putting our mortgages on it. But unfortunately, it doesn't actually work like that, does it?
Absolutely, yeah. Like, you know, you think of they haven't obviously got to compete with the US women in this tournament, of course. And as far as I understand it, they're kind of the standout team. I think the Brazilians are quite strong, are they not?
Yeah.
So but
all the European teams are strong as well now. There's not that much. There's not the gaps certainly short, and it used to be big, massive. Because obviously America had all that investment in it. Now all these other European countries, England as well, the gap is really getting smaller now.
Yeah, the other and the Germans. I've seen one stat on the highlights. One of their midfielders had scored something like 8 goals in 9 games. I think she was called Alex Pop or something
Alex
like
Pop,
that. Yeah. And so that's quite some record. So, you know, obviously there's no mugs in the other side of the draw. So it seems like, you know, effectively you will earn it if you get to you come out champions, because it looks like the 2 strongest teams are probably in the other semi-final. Would you say?
Probably, yeah. But England are strong as well. I mean, I think they've got, you know. Sweden are probably weaker than the other 2. I think that's a fair thing to say. I think the other thing to think about as well is it just shows how strong the WSL is, like the Women's Super League in effectively the Women's Premier League in England, because a lot of these players play in the WSL. So I watched. I was really keen on watching the Dutch centre forward. Her name's Miedema. She's the best way I'd sort of describe her is she's like a tall number 9. Do you know what I mean? Can run the channels, fairly strong. I didn't really get a chance to see her with any finish because she didn't really have a chance, but you know, she was skillful. She knew what she was doing. She was good off both feet. She's one of those, so you know, when you watch a game live as well, and you know, players right-footed and they're driving down the left and you're wanting, you know, getting them across it with the left foot. It's like, are they going to have enough power to get it in? And that's with the men's game. But she was getting it in, getting good quality with a weaker foot from the left side with pressure on her, and it was going in good areas. And I just thought, yeah, she's a player. You can tell a little bit, you know, was going up to her, the ball was sticking. So all that sort of stuff, she did really, really well. And then obviously Renard as well, you know, the massive centre half for France. Yeah. Every time there was a attacking corner, she pretty much won every inning. You know, the ball was good, the quality was good. I thought the number 7 for France was good. I don't know what her name was. She played wing back, but she was really, really good. The one player for me that's been, I'd never heard, she's English, I'd never heard of her before this tournament, and that's Keira Walsh. So she plays like basically you might have seen me tweet on our Twitter account. She plays like a deep line midfield. She plays like a 6, essentially, and she can ping a ball. It's like watching Pirlo play. You know what I mean? I'm really
She slipped a few passes through.
Yeah, she sees stuff and she'll get it and she'll ping it like absolute, and it'll find it. And I'm not seeing her give the ball away. You know, from the games that I've watched as well. So I just think she'd be like, I'm like, wow, you're a good player. I've always known about Fran Kirby. So this was when I started watching, you know, got a little bit in women's football. We'll talk, must have been a good few years ago. Fran Kirby, when I thought, I was like, oh, she was taking the absolute piss out of like WSL, but the standard between her and the rest of them was like massive because they were essentially amateurs and she's like an international. She was really good. So she's sort of had a second lease of life player. She's been really good. Lucy Bronze is obviously like one of the best in the world because she got like I think she was top 3 in the Ballon d'Or, and she's just got another move somewhere in Europe. I'm not entirely sure, but she's really good fullback as well. I think there might be a change up front. I don't think Ellen White's going to play. I think probably going to be Russo might start in front of her. But again, you know, she's the Wiegman's sort of shown that she's not there to make changes. Do you know what I mean? She's not going to tweak. She's not on about squad rotation. She'll just pick her strongest side, and she makes changes after half time, which is absolutely right, and she goes for it. But I just do feel tomorrow's going to be one of those nerve-wracking nights. You know what I mean? Where we're gonna. It might be a late one for the kids, and we're gonna.
so the if you were to choose one player to watch for tomorrow night, the England versus Sweden semi-final, which player would it be? Would you say it would be Keira Walsh?
Keira Walsh for me, yeah. I don't. So when I first started watching, I said must be about 5 or 6 years. Fran Kirby was the one where I just thought, wow, she's brilliant. I'm watching Kira Walsh play, and I'm thinking, you're absolutely brilliant. You know what I mean? She's doing stuff which you'd expect. If a male footballer did that, a professional footballer, you'd be, oh, that's a right ping. You can play spray balls everywhere here. And you don't want to compare, because we watch so much football, like men's football, and that's what we can always sort of look back to. I know it's two different games, and I keep going on about it. You can't, they're not the same game. You know what I mean? It's women's game and men's game. But when a woman played, it's that good. You're thinking, if a male player did what she did, he'd be getting compliments and he'd be getting praise for that. And I think that's the biggest compliment I can pay her, because she's doing stuff which I think would be difficult for professional male footballers to do. But I want to get away from the bit, when we're comparing, and it's just, it's probably for me as well in my own head stop, because there's two different sports essentially, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? They're not, but the intensity has massively impressed me and surprised me as well, especially live.
Yeah. So obviously I mentioned earlier that this is England's fourth. I think is it their third semi-final in a row, maybe their fourth overall, or maybe even their fourth semi-final.
Something like that.
Yeah. So what do you think? What would your advice be to the England team? What would you be saying as a manager to get them past what seems to be a little bit of a hoodoo against them?
For me, I think you take the football away from it. I don't think football's the issue. I think for them, this is the whole country is behind them. We know when the men play and they get all that, they get the press coverage and all that when they're playing Premier League footballers. But this is to that level and probably more. The whole country's there. I think almost you want to get away from the fact and what happened in the Austria game, what happened in the first sort of half of the Spain game where you could sort of see they were nervous. I think get rid of that. It's all psychological. I think just make that crystal clear. Forget about that. Forget about what's going on. And that's all white noise. Think about the game on its, on its own. Just think about the game and forget about everything else. And that's probably, there'll be psychologists and there'll be people better than me to, get their point across. But that's essentially what it is. The tactics of football, all that will take control of itself because you've been working on that all week. I think they've had 6 days to work on it. That's fine. It's just mentally preparing them for the moment. When you step into Bramall Lane, there'll be 30,000 fans. They know for a fact there'll be millions at home watching that. You can't. People know that in your head. Just me telling them stop thinking about that. You're not going to stop thinking about it. They're going to get the professional help. They'll get all that behind it. But it's like coping with it and managing managing all that. And it's almost like managing expectation. But the expectation is to get the final and win it. That's on the other hand. This is like, this is elite of the elite now. We're talking, absolute top-notch, top-tier stuff here. So I'd just say mentally prepare themselves and just do what you need to do to be in the right headspace to perform at your best. You don't, no regrets. You're at the stage now where, you're going to be legends. I saw something someone mentioned on radio the other week after the Spain game. There was a women's football player on the back page of a newspaper. Like, when does that ever happen? Do you know what I mean? George Stanway scored a rocket. She's like, so stuff like that, you can make yourself real, lionesses, even though, that's what they need, real lionesses, and go like, right, bang, this is what we've done and this is what we are going to achieve moving forward. And I think it'll just be, just imagine the impact. We talk about legacy, just imagine the impact it'd have on the legacy that it'll leave behind. Do you know what I mean? I'll be like, I remember Beth Mead. I remember George Stein. I remember Frank Kirby scoring that goal. Do you know what I mean? I remember Lucy Bronze's cross, all that sort of stuff. Young girls getting up and watching it, and it's like great. I mean, I've got 2 young girls, and them going to watch it, and it was funny because Layla's like, we're waiting for Francis Holland to come out, and she's like, Daddy, a Liverpool coming out, because to her, because I'm a Liverpool fan, so everything that is football related to her has to involve Liverpool.
Yes.
So I'm trying to explain to her that this is not. So she'll be like, oh, are we going to cheer for Liverpool today? No, it's going to be England against Sweden, but we'll cheer for England. You know what I mean? So no, it's. I think it's got such a great opportunity to, really, really make a positive change.
Yeah, it's like it's cementing their name in history. It's like you say, in 50 years, like I can't imagine the women's game going on a downward slope. Like I keep on saying throughout, I can only see it taking off, and more kids are going to get involved, and a win for England, especially at this tournament, regardless of what they've done so far, they've done a brilliant job, and it will encourage more women, more young girls into the sport. pretty much what the Olympics does. But if they were to go on to win it, it would be huge going towards the women's game. And that was my next question, and probably my last question is we've obviously seen that it's been like record breaking with the numbers, especially with like, the BBC on TV and that. How big do you think a final would be? Let's say we get through the semi tomorrow. How big do you think the game on Sunday will be in the grand scheme of things? Compare it to it. You can compare it to the men's game in this sense. How big do you think that final would be?
I don't like people who do this, but I'm going to do that when I flip the question. Can you I'm pretty sure if the women win tomorrow night, there will be a fan park in Middlesbrough on showing the game. They probably will walk there. You go to every major city, there will be something like that. There will be a big stadium. There will be screening of the final. England, it'll be like a men's final. It'll have that same sort of thing. The Wembley will be sold out. Everything will just be absolutely huge. I just think it's going to be, if we're comparing it, it'll be the same. Just because because of the sort of journey that they've been on, and the fact that every game they've played has been sold out. So they sold out the Old Trafford, which was like 70,000. You know what I mean? So people will travel everywhere. The Bramall Lane one, they had 2,000 tickets that came available, and they've got snapped up within 10 minutes. People ringing up, bang on. You know,
because everyone wants to be a part of history, don't they?
That's it. You want to be part of an event. So you're getting people involved in the sport that wouldn't really go to a football match. And it's almost similar to the men's game as well, because we know you'd have guys getting involved, and it would be guys getting involved that aren't really football fans, but they just want to get involved in that event on the bandwagon, regardless of how much it costs. You know what I mean? And it's going to be, it's a slightly different take here. You'll have you'll have a lot of women as well going to the games, and for them, it's like, someone mentioned, I'm sick of the screeching at the thingy, but that's young girls cheering for their. Shooting for their heroes. It's like, it's fine, just let them do it. You know what I mean? And the thing is, you'll always have people who put a downer on it, and those people can just, in the nicest possible way, piss off, because what the world has changed. You know what I mean? This is a different sport now, so we've got to. So my issue with the women's game was always the quality wasn't great. The quality now is good, so you've got no issues with it. Now it's just your own sort of backward views that are holding you back, and unfortunately, that's a you issue. It's not something we or the women can change it. It's just a case of you looking at yourself. So I just think the support will be through the roof. I think I think we can, you hear me, you'll hear me say this, you can put policies and action plans and strategies in place. All that it's all right. But if your women go and win the European Championships, you can bin all them. You don't need them strategies and stuff. That'll get you your actions what you need. Do you know what I mean? And it's the same. It's the same when we talk about diversity and inclusion as well. Do you know what I mean? You get a team full. You get a team that represents the country. Do you know what I mean? You get some South Asian players, you get some black players, you get some white. Bin your strategies and action plans. Let them win it, and they'll become heroes. You know what I mean? So that's my my little rant, but just
absolutely well said. You can clip that up. You said it perfectly. It is the only way forward. If you don't like it, like he says, do one. Right. So we're coming to the end of the podcast, and that only leaves one thing. Ty likes to give us a question of the day. So what is your question of the day, Ty?
Yeah, my question of the day is obviously linked in with what we've spoke about today. So this is for you guys. You've obviously watched it, and it's just has this tournament, since you've watched it, assume you've watched it, or even if you haven't, and people talking about it, has it changed your views on the women's game? So having watched the tournament so far, has it changed your views on the game? Positive or negative? Let us know in the comments below. As always, we do say we'll respond to every single comment, and we do, So that'll be great if you can.
Absolutely. That's a great question. And for me personally, absolutely, it's changed my view. Will it go into watching the WSL? Not sure, but certainly I'll be watching tomorrow night. Certainly I'll be watching the final, and then, we'll obviously take it from there. And I don't even need to ask you. You're obviously going to any game, any and every game that you possibly can. So, that's brilliant. So, as always, if you've come this far, if you've watched this long, you must have liked it. So click the like, click the subscribe. Do all that good stuff down below, and obviously answer Ty's question. As always, we answer everything. So with that being said, is there anything that you want to say? You want to wish the women good luck?
Yeah, good luck. Hopefully tomorrow. I mean, it's raining outside at the moment. I'm just hoping it doesn't rain tomorrow because we're going to the fan park before the game.
All right.
So there's in taking all that in. But and the thing is, the fan park, I don't think there's any alcohol allowed. So again, you get rid of alcohol. The whole atmosphere and everything just improves it. It becomes more of a family event. So girls will enjoy it. I'm going to get them some flags, even though they're $5 a pop, which pisses me off. But I've got a Dutch and a French one if anybody wants to buy one. So I've got 2 Dutch ones if anybody wants to buy one. So yeah, get them the flags, and I've actually got an England top, so I'll be rocking that. proper bandwagon jumper.
You'll be both it. You'll be both.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks for watching. As always, we'll see you in the next one.
See you guys. Bye.
Good luck, guys.